Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Standout Resumes. My name is Lupe Valenzuela, and I am a career consultant with New Mexico Workforce Connection. I welcome you to Standout Resumes. This short little workshop will help you with putting together a resume. I'm sure that you have a resume put together, maybe a draft, maybe something that you used a long time ago. And with the help of this workshop, I'm sure that you are going to learn something new. I want you to know that everything that we cover here today is all going to be recommendations. Just because you hear it here in this class does not mean that it is anything set in stone. Each resume, each person is different. So resumes are different also. I'm sure that you're going to learn something today. Okay, I have a couple of participants in here with me that are going to help me with my class. So welcome to the both of you.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. So the goal of the workshop today would be to review how and why a resume and cover letter are critical to success in landing your next job. You're going to discover what is new or different about resumes so you can update your resume or create a new one. You're going to learn resume basics, types of resumes, how to format a digital resume. I think that's the newest one, is the digital resume. Some of us have been in the workforce for a long time, then all of a sudden we're thrown into having to look for a new job, and then you wonder what everybody's doing as far as resumes. The newest one is a digital resume, and we're going to cover that. Also, the general content and layout guidelines of a resume, how to customize your digital resume and paper resume for each job and company. And number 5, present tips for developing an effective letter. So I'm sure you're going to learn something today. Remember, these are all recommendations. Resumes are as different as the people that write them, put them together. So whether you're early in your career or you've been in the workforce a while, you have skills that some employer out there needs. So let's look at your resume and make it competitive. Make sure that it gets attention, it gets read, and you get an interview. Okay, your competitive resume should outline your qualifications, your skills, employment history, experience, and education. Use sentences that highlight your accomplishments to inform your potential employer about how you might perform at their company. Your resume provides important information organized in an easy to read format, and it persuades employers to invite you in for a job interview. I like that. Make sure you prioritize your skills and accomplishments. We're going to talk a little bit more about that here in a few more slides. And I just want to recommend that you do not include everything on your resume. I know that you believe that every detail about you or your career confirms your value. But if you put everything onto a resume, then it looks like you really are not sure about what you want to do. Then all of a sudden you're throwing everything into that resume and you're really telling that hiring manager, there's something in there that you like about me. You pick it out, then you call me. I don't know. It really shouldn't be like that. You should be presenting the skills and the accomplishments that you can present to that hiring manager. It's almost like sales. You don't want to give, when you're selling an item, you don't want to give information about the item that the buyer really is not interested in, okay? It's just wasted time, wasted breath. And again, with a resume, you're going to present things that that hiring manager wants to look at and that you want to prove to him that you can do for him, okay? It's like sales, it is, and you're selling yourself. You're selling yourself. Okay. All right, so what's most important for you to know on your resume? Skills are the most important content, not just titles or work tasks. Accomplishments and outcomes must be included, not just what you did, but what impact it had. Did you create a new filing system? You know, did you learn that filing system so well that you created a new filing system? Did you create a new check-in system? So not just what you did, but what impact did it have? And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. You need a digital resume in addition to a paper resume. because most resumes are transmitted via internet, job boards, company websites, or email. So make sure that you have a digital one and you have a paper one, okay? Just keep in mind that the internet will not read Microsoft Word. So we're gonna talk about how you can transmit that resume digitally. One type of resume can be used for both online applications and for a paper copy as long as you meet internet formatting requirements. We'll talk about that in a minute. To be competitive, customize your resume for each job and company. One size does not fit all. I have people that sit next to me and they have 3 or 4 resumes and they apologize to me and they say, oh my God, I didn't know I had that many resumes. You know what, that's okay. The more the merrier, because you want to make sure that you're fitting your skills to that job or to that company. So you don't want to have just one resume that has everything in it, okay? Because it might not make sense to that hiring manager. What's he supposed to be looking at? So you're supposed to guide him through that and make sure that you're pointing out those skills, okay? To be competitive, customize your resume for each job and company, maintain constant access on your mobile device or carry a paper copy with you at all times. Answer your phone. Make sure that your voicemail is professional. Make sure that it is not full. Make sure that you're answering it. It's a big turnoff when you call someone for a job and their voicemail doesn't even take messages. And that shows me that, I don't know, maybe you may not be as interested. So make sure that you're always ready. Looking for work is work. It's hard work. So we need to be ready, both with a voicemail ready and also with a copy of your resume. Take one with you. Put one, maybe a general one, put it in a folder in your car. So that in case you come across a friend that says, hey, I know a friend of a friend of a friend that's hiring, then you can go over there and you can drop off a resume or you can give it to that friend to give it to someone. I mean, you mean business, right? When you're looking for work, you mean business. Another point I want to make is for hiring events and job fairs, make sure that you have a resume with you. We've conducted a few job fairs and hiring events where the candidates did not have a resume. And so many people apply for these positions that you can get lost in all of that. So for you to have a nice, fresh, clean resume when you go to a job fair or a hiring event is that you're ready. You can pass that across the table and it's memorable. So even if you are going to go to a job fair, a hiring event, and you've applied online, take a resume with you anyway, okay? All right. We're going to talk about 3 basic types of resumes. The first one is a chronological resume. This one, it highlights your growth and maturity throughout an organization. This one, I think, would be someone that's maybe applying for a position within a company. If you started maybe at the mailroom and then you moved up to a clerk and then maybe now you're a department manager, this is usually read from the bottom up. So it shows your progression from entry level to professional level. Okay, so this is a good one for that. The next one is a functional resume. This one is for someone that's changing fields. It focuses attention on skills rather than a timeline. It allows candidates to highlight skills of their choice and experiences, accomplishments that are most relevant. This is for someone that is changing fields, but has the same type of transferable skills. Maybe someone that was an instructor, has a lot of skills working with the public, in public speaking, maybe writing curriculums, and then all of a sudden you want to do something more one-on-one, where maybe you're tutoring people one-on-one, you're not afraid to teach one-on-one, or you're going to work more with the public one-on-one. Any transferable skills, any volunteer work that you've done. This one is good for a mature worker because you have so many skills as a mature worker that you're going to bring into this position that a lot of those are transferable skills. You've learned a lot in all of those years that you've been working. The last one I think is everybody's favorite. It has a combination resume. It has parts of the chronological and functional. This one has employment history with highlights of skills and experiences. It has accomplishments that are most relevant. or relevant skills and experience section. And we're going to see how that looks on a resume here in a minute. But I think this combination resume is the one most people like to use because it's more editable. And it has both the skills, the functional and the chronological resume aspects. Okay, let's before we move on to that, let's talk about a digital resume. Okay, first of all, what you're going to do is you're going to pick the type of resume that works best for you. From the three that I just mentioned, which one works best for you? You're going to create a template resume with all of your information included. Just a rough draft of everything that you've done, everything, dates, names, addresses, what you did, who your supervisor was at that point. It's a good idea to have that with you when you go apply, and then that way you're not calling your friend, your coworker, you're not calling your wife, your husband, and say, what was that address for that company? You're going to have it with you. Again, looking for work is hard work, so make sure you have that information with you. Okay, and that way you can answer those questions quickly. If you come upon a job opening and you have to sit down and fill it out, you'll have that information. So then develop a traditional word processed paper version and have this with you for reference if you type this resume into a company website. Some companies want you to fill out their own resumes. And save a digital copy without any special formatting to use for online requirements. So let's talk about the formatting. Over to your left, it's going to give you some ideas and what you need to do for a digital resume. I know that when I was looking for work, I sent resumes and they would look kind of strange. They looked out of line. All of a sudden it had all kinds of symbols in it. It just did not look like the resume that I presented. And I had to go and format it, and it took me even longer, and I was frustrated and I just didn't know. So here are some points on how to send your digital resume, because remember, the internet does not recognize Microsoft Word. Okay, so a digital resume can be any of the three we just talked about. To send over the internet, it must follow specific formatting layout requirements because the internet does not read regular Word documents. You can edit a Word document so that it meets these requirements. If you don't, when the employer opens the resume, your information will be moved around or the format's all different. That's what happened to me. So here are some of the basics, okay? Number one, you need a 10 to 14 sans serif font, such as Helvetica or Arial. Sans serif means without feet. So that means the letters should be blocked. They don't have any of those fancy little things on the bottom of them. That's what sans serif means. Number two, all information is flush left or use spaces for indenting. You cannot use caps, bold, underline, italics, or borders. I know what you're saying. You're thinking, I just put together this really nice resume, and now you're telling me I have to remove all of that? Yes, unless you convert it to a PDF format or unless you use these basics that I just pointed out. So if you use a PDF format, then you can transmit it the way you put it together. Okay, but keep in mind that a resume does not have to be fancy. It does not have to have all the bells and whistles. It just needs to be able to have keywords and should be easy to read. People are tired and people don't read past, a page, maybe half a page. So it doesn't have to have all of those fancy things, okay? I also want to say that if the company that you're applying for has their own resume builder, I strongly advise you to consider using that. Some applications will say, we do not accept resumes. I don't know if you've seen that before, but they want you to fill that in. So having a copy of your resume in front of you as you fill that in, it's because it's their own resume builder. So I strongly advise you to do that. If they want you to use their own resume builder, please do that. Okay, let's talk in detail about each resume. Okay, the chronological resume, this one was the one that I kind of mentioned where you're doing your professional, from entry level to professional, where it shows the path. This one shows history and path. It's easy to follow format, and it's read from the bottom up. Again, if you look at the right-hand side, you're going to see that you're going to show your current or most recent job. Then you're going to see accomplishment 1, 2, or 3. What did you accomplish there? Previous job, you can do accomplishment 1 or 2, and then previous accomplishment 1 or 2. Again, Think about applying within the company. What did you accomplish when you were in the mailroom, right? Then you're going to apply, then you moved into the clerical position. What did you accomplish there? And then now you're going to apply in a department. So they're trying to see that progression from your entry level to professional. Okay. The second one is your functional resume. Again, this one is if you're moving from one career to another, you have transferable skills. The functional resume highlights scope and range of transferable skills, knowledge, and abilities. Again, this is for a mature worker. You've gained a lot of experience over the years, so you have a lot of transferable skills. It focuses on more current picture than history. And this is good for those of us that have gaps in their work history, or you're transitioning to a new career. The format may raise questions since often it's used to de-emphasize work history. Okay, so this one is good. If you're comfortable using this, you're a mature worker. The way it's laid out, of course, you have the name of your company, that you're going to put what skill you acquired with that company. If you're a mature worker, what did I learn with that company? And with that, then what did you accomplish with that skill? Okay, then maybe you had another skill that you learned with that company. Then what did you accomplish? So again, it focuses more on your skills and your accomplishments. Okay. The last one would be your combination resume. Again, it uses the elements of the two previous ones. It showcases skills while providing employers what they want. They want work dates and job titles. Okay, so here you go. On your right-hand side, you have your current or most recent job on top. You're going to have skill A. What did I learn at that job? And what did I accomplish with that skill? Then you're going to have skill B. And it doesn't have to be a lot of skills. Well, a lot of skills, yes, but not, you don't have to have 15 accomplishments. It could be 1 or 2 accomplishments, but they should be meaty and they should be concise. Okay, then you can list your previous job and what skill did I acquire there? If you were a forklift driver, maybe that's, you know, you learned how to drive a forklift driver. And what did you accomplish there? Hey, they made you maybe the supervisor in the warehouse, you know, and then you were in charge of certain departments or in charge of keeping the heavy equipment maintained. See, those are some of the examples that you want to list. Again, this type is the most favorite one. It's more editable and you can customize it a little bit better. I think most people go with this one. Okay, so let's talk about the overview for a resume. Okay, A should be your contact information across the top. Okay. B should be your summary of skills. Okay, so again, your summary of skills should be everything you know what to do. Of course, after you've looked at the job description. Okay, because the job description will tell you what they're looking for, of course. And then in your professional summary, you can mimic those skills if you have them. Preferably, you do have them. You could list them there. What I like about this particular resume is down under there, it says technology snapshot. That's not something that most people will do, but I kind of like the way that is put together. It's got the skills up on top, and then the technology snapshot, where it's got all the applications Jennifer knows how to use. So I think, I like that part. Of course, that's not necessary. Again, these are all recommendations. C is your work history. If you'll look at that, you're going to see the name of the company, the dates, the title, and down under it, you could see the skills. Those are the ones in the bullets. Okay, and then down under that is your accomplishments. What did you accomplish when you acquired these skills? Okay, and notice that there's only like maybe 2 accomplishments. You don't need to have a whole bunch of accomplishments, but they should be meaty and they should kind of paint a picture of, I learned this and this is what I did with it. Okay, your education should be in there. Options would be awards, associations, interests, and related activities. Again, related activities if it relates to the job. Okay, all right. So I have some interesting numbers for you. I think you're gonna find interesting. 55% of hiring managers rank typos as the biggest resume turnoff. Biggest resume turnoff. So that is a big turnoff because now there's so much help in finding a misspelled word or a word that is not used properly in a sentence, all you have to do is ask somebody and or look it up, and you can tell if it's misspelled, or it'll guide you in the right direction. So really ignoring a typo, it's really, you know, it's kind of lazy on your part if you're not correcting those. Okay, so make sure you correct those. 55% of hiring managers agree resumes should cover 10 years or less of a person's work experience. Okay, 10 years or less. Okay. 46% of managers hate seeing an unprofessional resume format. Okay, so make it look nice. It doesn't have to be fancy. Look at this resume here. This doesn't have too many bells and whistles. It has a nice border. It has, you know, some bold. It has some bullets. That's nice. That's easy to read. It doesn't have to be too fancy. 47% of hiring managers have a strong distaste for the word expert. Can anybody guess why the word expert might not be a good word to use? I've taught this in many classes, and everybody gets it right every single time. If you call yourself an expert, that means that you're not teachable, you're not trainable, you're at the top of your game. So sometimes that may be a turnoff to some hiring managers, because they want to be able to train you and they want to be able to show you new things. So by using the word expert, you may be turning off the hiring manager. Okay, 31% can't stand the word innovative. I think innovative is just overused. Again, these are all fun facts. This is just something fun that I found that I looked up. The last thing, 42% of all hiring managers cringe at unexplained gaps in work history. I'm going to show you where to put those gaps in your work history. Some of those are inevitable. Sometimes we take time off to take care of our children, or we have someone in our family that's ill and we have to take time off. But there is a place where you can explain these gaps, and we're going to cover that in the cover letter, which is a few slides down. Any questions?
Yes. I have skills that I acquired from working with a company that I worked for 15 years ago. I'm proud of those skills and of having worked for the company. How would I list the skills and the company if I should only list 10 years on my resume?
That's a good question. So if it's been 15 years and you're proud of those skills and you're proud of that company, those skills, if they pertain to that job, I would put under that heading that says professional summary. Okay, that's where I would put those skills. Okay, if they pertain to that particular position and it's been 15 years, as you mentioned, sir, then you could put it under professional summary. Now, you also mentioned that you kind of wanted to brag about that company. Yeah, because it was probably a very famous company, right? Or a well-known company, right? You can mention that in your cover letter, and we're going to cover that here in a minute, the cover letter and how you can mention that. Okay, thank you. Good question. All right, let's talk about the content of your resume. Of course, your resume should have your full name, address, city, state, your telephone number. Use the number that you are most consistently available at, and be prepared for employer calls. Hyperlink your email address, LinkedIn page, or website address. If you don't know how to hyperlink, please talk to maybe your career consultant. But I think most computer programs will do that automatically. And the reason for that is, of course, the hiring manager can just click on that hyperlink and create an email for you. I want to talk a little bit about your phone number. Again, I want to mention that make sure that it is your correct number. Make sure that your voicemail box is empty. Make sure it's got a professional greeting. Also, if you're going to answer the phone and you're maybe with some friends having some drinks, there's loud music, you know, there's a lot going on in the background, let it go to voicemail and then immediately call them back. Don't answer it while there's so much going on around you, because you'll be asking maybe that person to repeat certain things, and this way you can answer it, you can pay attention, and it's all about the impression, right? You call them back, it's making a good impression, he's hearing you, you're hearing him. Remember, impressions, it only takes like 10 seconds to make a good or a bad impression, so The voicemail, make sure it's a professional greeting and not some rap song or your child answering the phone. It's all about impressions. Okay, also your email address. Okay, make sure it's a professional email address. You see that email address there? It says topmarketer@gmail.com. So if you have an email address that maybe isn't so professional, then maybe you should consider creating a new one as you're doing job searches. It may take the polish off of your resume if you have an email address that isn't professional sounding, or you created it when you were 20 and you've had it all this time, but times have changed, right? Since you were 20, you're a more mature person now. Again, create one just for job searches, something professional you could put on your resume. And if you do, make sure you check it often. You don't want that email address to take the polish off of your resume. Okay, let's talk about, you see Julie Gerard here. She's got her email hyperlinked, and also on LinkedIn. I hope that you all know about LinkedIn and how useful it can be. LinkedIn is a social network for career and business professionals to connect. This is a real good way to put yourself out there with all of your skills. It's kind of almost like a resume online. You can connect with so many people in the same line of work that you're doing. Maybe people that you haven't seen in years will start to connect with you. If you need a letter of recommendation, this is a really good way to connect with people, and they can, all of a sudden, they can tell a friend of a friend of a friend that you're looking for work. I have a friend that was offered a job through LinkedIn, and she took it, and she is now working there. She was here in locally, and she moved to another state to take a job. So LinkedIn really just puts you out there, and you'd be surprised at how many people will start looking at your profile, and you never know, you could be asked for, to come join their team. It's a very, very helpful link. Okay, all right, so let's look at your summary of skills. Your summary of skills should highlight your skills relevant to the type of job you're applying for. A skill summary is keywords that should match specific skills that employer requires based on job description. Make sure that you're studying that job description. I have many people that will ask for help with a resume, or they're looking at a certain position online. All they saw was the title, and they never saw the job description. And I tell them, did you look at the job description? No, it's just that I've done this before. And I said, well, it requires certain certifications. Do you have these? And they'll say no. And then I say, well, you really should look at the job description, because you want to make sure that what you're putting on your resume matches that job description. Okay? I have a funny story where a young man got out of the Army, and he applied as a lifeguard. And I said, did you read the job description? And he said, no, I don't have to, because I was in the Army. And I said, well, it requires certain certifications. Do you have them? And it says that it wants someone to teach swimming classes. Can you do that? Oh, no, I can't do that. And I said, well, by applying for jobs that you really don't qualify for, you're really setting yourself up for failure. And the second one is you'll be disappointed. You'll tell me that you applied for 15 jobs, but if those 15 jobs you weren't qualified for them, then that's disappointing in the end. So you have to make sure that you're applying for jobs that you're qualified for. Okay, so make sure that you study that job description. Include technical skills, leadership skills, interpersonal skills, job-related knowledge. Make a list of the technical skills that you have. List at least 3 technical skills that you have. Write them on a scrap sheet of paper. Leadership skills. Anything, any program, any committee that you've led. Interpersonal skills. Are you good with the public? Keep those things in mind as you're writing your resume, what you've done. You'd be surprised at how much you can recall once you start making lists of all of the skills that you have. If you need help with that, reach out to somebody. They can help you. They could see you. They see you in a different light. You see yourself one way, but someone else could say, hey, you're really good at this. And you think, well, I never thought about that. But someone can help you with that. So some of your skills can be a list with commas inserted between the skills, such as down there on the bottom, it says retail manager. You could put brand management, cash management and reconciliation, inventory control, merchandising, personnel management, promotion, sales forecasting, staff scheduling. What you're doing there is you're putting in keywords into that resume. So in case they put that in through a keyword to pick up keywords, it'll pick up those keywords. And your resume will most likely be on the, hey, let's look at this guy pile. Okay, so that's what you're trying to do with those skills. Okay? Again, don't put everything you know what to do in there, because again, it looks like you don't know what you want to do, and you don't want to present that to the hiring manager and say, hey, there's something in there you like. You find it, then you call me. You kind of want to lead them to it. Okay, your work experience includes employer, employment information, should be your company name, city, state, job title, dates of employment, year to year. If work experience is in professional job titles, consider a header that says professional experience, and then you can list your professional experience there. If you have a lengthy work history with multiple employers, use relevant professional experience, okay, with selected work experience. This is good for mature workers. This one down on the bottom, the relevant professional experience. Also, what you might want to add is accomplishments. Include military service, branch, rank, only insert dates of service if they're recent. If work experience is short, it has gaps, include internships. If you've done some internships, volunteer work, if you volunteered with your church and you've been doing their books for the last 2-3 years, those are transferable skills. Make sure that you put that in there. Make sure that you quantify accomplishments, not just what you did, but what were the results. I did this, but this is what came out of it. Okay, when we talk about accomplishments, that's what you want to keep in mind. Here's an example. This one's a little bit heavy with numbers, but this is a good example here. I'll show you more here in a minute. Grew new product sales 100% in 120 days and sustained 20% annual sales growth for 5 consecutive years by introducing new marketing initiatives. That's really heavy with numbers. You can make some of those accomplishment statements a little bit simpler and easier to read, and I'll show you some. But if you're going to use a statement like that, make sure that it's concrete, believable statements, and make sure that it's factual. Okay. What some of your accomplishment statements should say, they should state the result of action based on a challenge that you faced in your job. You have to be ready for that anyway, for if you have an interview with that company. They may ask you a question similar to this. So it's a good idea to think about it already. Clearly illustrate a relevant skill. What are you good at? Everybody's good at something. You know, what are you good at? You fall into the types of jobs that you're in because you're probably good at something that you've learned in that job, you've perfected over the years. So clearly illustrate that skill. Be concise. Be quantitative and qualitative. How much and what value was it to the company? Use action words. You don't have to use the word I, because the resume is already about you, but make sure you're using the action words. Performed, initiated, achieved, assured. All of those are action words. Make sure that your accomplishment statements begin with action words. I want to warn you against industry lingo. The military, if you're working for the military or you've worked for the military, they have a lot of acronyms. And some of us civilians may not know what you're talking about. So if you must put some acronyms in there, just make sure that you're putting in parentheses what those mean. So that way, whoever the hiring manager is or the HR specialist that's looking at your resume knows what you're talking about. Don't assume that everybody knows. Okay, so be very careful with your industry lingo and don't try not to be too heavy on your resume with that industry lingo. Okay. Here's some ideas on some accomplishment sentences. met or exceeded specific goals accurately and timely, finished a major project on time and under budget, saved the company time or money, quotes and or data from performance reviews. Again, looking for a job is hard work. Frequency or timing of promotions, any awards, employee of the month, anything like that that you have, you might want to add those on there. Okay. So here's some examples that you can, some sentence examples. Again, they don't have to be very heavy with numbers. Here's one. Responded to over 85 customer calls daily and solved 90% of customer concerns. So maybe you're good at dealing with the public, okay? And you can really de-escalate issues or problems, or maybe you were in that department where you de-escalate customer concerns. I know some call centers have a department like that. Submitted over 500 construction bids annually and was awarded 90% of the contracts. Served customers in a positive way, receiving 2 customer service awards in the past year. See, that one doesn't have too many numbers in it, but it says a lot that you served customers in a positive way, and I got 2 customer service awards in the last year. Use sentences like that. If you co-chair, as it shows there, co-chaired a series of blood drives in the local area and you netted over 1,200 units of blood. Again, show your success. Show what you accomplished when you did something, the skills. That is what you should be presenting on your resume. Also, if you have any letters of recommendation, make sure that you put them, you attach them on there. Just don't go back too far. Maybe, within the 10 years that you've been working. That should limit it. Okay. Okay, do some research on the position. Again, list skills that are relevant to the position. As you know, when you're looking at the job description, when they put the job description up, they're going to put all of the important skills towards the top and then not so important towards the bottom. So make sure that your resume is like that. If they use the word manage, you use the word manage in your resume. If they use the word direct, then you use the word direct. You want to make sure that you show that you've done your homework, that you've studied that job description, and you're presenting those same skills to that hiring manager, because he wants to make sure that you're going to transition over, that you're going to be a good fit for him, for that company, and you're going to fit right in. Okay? Show what abilities you have related to the desired job. How, again, rank by importance. How are they organized in the job description? And you do the same thing. If you're entering a new industry, this is an opportunity to show transferability of skills. While skills are common over a series of jobs, avoid duplication. Again, I get customers that maybe they've driven a truck all their life, and that's all they list is, I was a truck driver, I was a truck driver, I was a truck driver. And I have to really pry it out of them and say, on this one, were you able to enter the military base? Oh yeah, I got a security clearance for that. There you go. Then what did you do with that security? Oh, I was able to go here and here and here. And all of a sudden they're remembering all of the things that they did with that particular company. Then we go to the next one and they say, oh, I was a truck driver there. But what did you do? Were you a supervisor? Yeah, as a matter of fact, I was. I had 20 guys under me. What did you do with them? Oh, I had to make sure they had their timesheets, and there you go. So make sure that each job isn't the duplicate of the next job, that each skill is different. And because really you've learned something different at each job that you've been at. Even if it's the same line of work, you've learned something different. Okay. All right, so let's look at content, just a little snippet of the resume that we looked at prior. A is your employer and employment history. There's a snapshot of what that looks like. Here's your skills, B. Here's your skills. Jennifer has these skills here. Manage 10 technical support analysts with 800 end users. Okay, and C is her accomplishments. What did she do with those skills? Okay, and again, they don't have to be a lot of accomplishments. They don't have to be 15 accomplishments. They could just be a couple of accomplishments, but it shows what you did with that skill. Okay, again, make sure that you're going to add your highest education level attained. You can list multiple degrees in different subject areas. Your degree title, your school and location. List your college GPA of 3.0 or higher if you're a recent college graduate. List college classes related to the position if you haven't received your degree yet. Include your high school or GED information if applicable. On here, of course, if you've already taken classes, college classes, then that's a given that you did go to high school. For mature workers, you don't have to put the year that you graduated from high school, just where you graduated. You want to stay away from anything that's going to point to your age right off the bat. Identify licenses and certifications related to the position. That is so important. If you gained any licenses or certifications that have to do with that job, please list them on there. Okay, that's so important. Make sure that you have that information and you put it in there accurately. If it relates to the job, make sure that you're adding membership or involvement to show ongoing connection to career, any professional associations. If you belong to the Rotary Club or any Veterans Club or anything like that, add it on there. Hiring managers like to see people that are involved in their community and care about their community. So that really says a lot about you. Any awards that you received, a citizenship award, skill-based award, anything like that, add that on there. Volunteer jobs, information to add continuity of work history. It shows leadership, project management, that you're able to take a project and run with it and make it successful. Any interests that show creativity, but that are also kind of an extension of that position. If they really are not relevant to the position, then I wouldn't add them in there. I would just leave that off. But if it's relevant to the position, if you're applying for a photographer's job, then if you've been doing photography on the side, then I would put that on there. That's a good example there. Okay, so all of this time we've talked about all of the things that you should do. So let's talk about all of the things that you should not put on a resume. And I am very confident that many of you are not going to do this. One of them would be a photo, unless it's specifically required. There's certain careers, as you know, that's going to require a photo. And one big guess is the reason you don't want to include a photo is because you don't want that photo to age you or kind of put you in a specific group, right? Because then they'll look at that photo on the resume and then decide right off the bat that maybe you're not the right person for this position. You don't want to do that. Okay, there are some positions though that you do need a photo, of course, a modeling job, an actor's job. I was told that maybe in the dental business, sometimes they ask you for a photo in the dental business. And maybe that could be because, maybe because I'm thinking your smile, that's going to sell, smiles at the dental office. That's what I'm thinking. My hairdresser always says, make sure your hair always looks good because you advertise for me. So that's the same idea. Okay, so I know none of you are going to put in your gender, your race, of course not your social security number, your date of birth, your nationality. I'm sure none of you are going to add these on there. But if you're thinking about doing anything like this, please don't. Okay, all right. Also on references available upon request. That changes. That changes. Michelle, you have a question. You have your hand up.
Do I have to list references on my resume?
Do you have to list references on your resume? If you have them, I would list them. I have had a few people that say, I am uncomfortable putting someone else's information on a resume that I'm going to leave in somebody else's hands. That's been brought up a couple of times. I would, if you do not present your references, make sure you have them with you. If they're in a separate sheet of paper, if they ask for them, you present them. If the last part, references available upon request, if you're uncomfortable of having these people's names, phone numbers, whatever it is that they require, if you're uncomfortable about leaving that at somebody else's hands, then you could put that. references available. Someone brought that up in my in one of my other classes that said, I am not comfortable leaving somebody out. Mine fine, because I know what I'm doing, but my friend doesn't know I'm handing over, you know, how much of her information I'm handing over, and that may make her uncomfortable. So that's a good point. But yeah, if you have references, please have them with you. Have them with you if you go on an interview, and then you can hand them over. Good question. Thank you. I had another topic where somebody said, if I list references in a small town, sometimes that may be a good thing or a bad thing. Because they'll say, well, you know, in a small town, maybe they know one of their references, and then they decide right off the bat that they don't want to hire you. That was brought up, and I thought that was interesting. I hadn't thought about that. Because I always think having a reference is going to be a good thing. But that's another thing to look at. Okay. All right, so let's talk about keyword readers. 75% of big companies use applicant tracking systems that electronically scan resumes searching for keywords. Again, read that job description. What that job description says, you make sure you mention it in your resume. Okay, there are companies that you never would believe that use these applicant tracking systems. They put that resume through that applicant tracking system. They pick up on keywords, and the more they pick up on, they're going to put you here on let's talk to this person. And if you're not putting any of the keywords that they're using, then you may not get a call. Okay. Those keywords, of course, are unique to each position and industry. And so customize it so you get more hits. So it's going to be picked up just by using the same keywords. Again, if they use the word manage, you use the word manage. If they use the word direct, you use the word direct. Okay. There's a really good online resource called onetonline.org that is very useful when you're putting together your skills. It's free for anybody. You can use it. It's very helpful when putting together a resume. You put in, and this is what it looks like. It's a site, and you don't need that little star in between the O and the N, just onetonline.org. And over on the right-hand side, you can't really pick up the little bubble, but you put in the profession up there. Whether it's dishwasher, whether it's real estate agent, bank president, you hit search and it'll bring up so many skills. And we use it a lot. The system that that Workforce uses the same idea. I think this is where this is drawn from, but it'll pick up on all of the skills that maybe a rental manager would have. And you'd be surprised at when you bring it up, how many people say, yeah, I did that, I did that, I did that. That's cool. So as you're putting together your resume, make sure that you're using this onetonline.org, or go into your workforce office and talk to your career coach, and they can help you with that. There's a lot of help out there. You don't have to struggle with this on your own. You can ask for help on it, and it's a lot easier than you think. It just takes some time to put it together. Very, very helpful. Okay, so let's talk about your paper resume. For a resume that you want to print, choose a 10 to 14 print serif font for greater readability. Times Roman is a good one. Don't use a Courier font like what's shown there. That's got the same space for each letter, and it takes up a lot of room. So you don't want to use that. Again, you don't need a fancy resume, just one that's easy to read, that's factual, that's concise, and has all of your skills listed on it. For a resume that you intend to transmit over the internet, we talked about this a little earlier, you use sans serif typeface, and these are the ones that we recommend that you use, the Arial or the Helvetica. Be consistent with type size used for headings. For printed copies, make sure you're using quality paper and make sure print quality is good. Okay, if you're going to hand out your resume, make sure that it makes an impression. Again, it's all about impressions. Okay, and ensure a comfortable mix of white space and words, and use 1-inch margins. Don't make it too busy. Okay, customized resume for each application. It's okay if you have 3 or 4 resumes. I had 7 resumes. Just make sure that you're putting the right resume to the right job description. Make sure that you named it correctly. Based on each job posting and company research, customize keywords with your summary of skills, relevant work experience, skills and accomplishments under each job, and you can include, again, professional associations, awards, volunteer positions, and interests. Okay, study that job posting. Spell check and have 2 or 3 people proofread, state results and accomplishments, use keywords in your resume. Describe experience, skills, abilities, accomplishments with up-to-date industry terminology. And keep that format simple. Make it easy to read. Here are some really good resources to put together a resume. Of course, my favorite is the New Mexico Workforce Connection online system. It has a very easy to use resume template. It has job descriptions. It has skills that you can draw from and put into it. You can edit it. I mean, these are all good resources, but my favorite, of course, is the New Mexico Workforce Connection online system. Your career coach can help you put one together, 1, 2, or more, but it has so many job descriptions and skills. It is very, very easy to use, so reach out. One mistake I made is I put my resume together, and when I thought it was beautiful and it was done, then they wanted me to pay for it online. So you don't have to pay for a resume. Come and see us. We can help you with a resume. Okay, we'll be happy to do that. Cover letter. I love cover letters. You know, you think that this went out in the 50s, but cover letters are still so useful, and they really bring more to your job application, because as you're applying online, your resume just gives facts and it gives skills and it gives accomplishments, and it seems very cold almost. But when you use your cover letter, it brings a little bit more warmth and your personality, and it just shows that you've done your homework on that position. So a cover letter is so important with a job application. I can't tell you how important that is. It talks about you. It really is. It will help you with your job search. Also, I wanted to mention that in your workforce office, there's a really cool book called The Cover Letter. A resume should never stand alone. And this shows you lots of examples on cover letters. There is a template in the Workforce Connection office right next to the resume template when you get onto your account, and it'll help you create a cover letter. But if you need help, you want to take it home, this little booklet in your workforce office is I use it all the time. I use it all the time for examples, and it really is very useful. So an important part of your application process, it gives you an opportunity to make connections. That resume isn't making that much of a connection aside from skills and accomplishments, right? You're getting a few points for that. But this gives you an opportunity to make connections to the employer's specific requirements, and it forces you to focus on important information. This is your initial chance to demonstrate your knowledge of the company and stress why you want to work there. You actually get to say, hey, you know what? I've been wanting to work for you guys for so long. You know, this has been, you know, a dream of mine to come work for you all. Okay, or I read an article, you know, that your company put together, and I was impressed by that, and that is something that's important to me. That's how you add the warmth, and that's how it talks about you, that cover letter. The letter shows other credentials, for example, your writing skills, how creative you are. How do you promote yourself? Again, this is about sales. You're selling a product, you're selling yourself, right? And this is a real good way to sell yourself. You already did on your resume by bringing all of the important things that you know how to bring to this job. But your cover letter says just a tiny more about you, and it actually says it in sentences instead of the statements that you're going to see in a resume. This is a real good place to answer questions your resume may raise. Let's say you had a gap in work history. I had a young lady that she wanted so badly for this office to know why she didn't work between 2014 and 2018. And she says, how do I do that? And I said, you do it on your cover letter. That's where you explain it. Okay, some of the veterans also, many veterans are so overqualified for the positions that they apply for because they've learned so much in all of the years that they've been in the military. This is a real good place to say, you know, I have all of these skills, but I am willing to start at an entry level. I am willing to start here and learn how your company is run, how your company functions, and eventually be a long-term employee with you. So it gives you a chance to explain that you're overqualified, but that you're willing. You're willing to be, you know, taught, and you're willing to start at that level. Okay? You can tell I like cover letters. Okay? So with a cover letter, you have proof that you've done your homework. There's an explanation of the skills and how they relate to the job, your excitement about the position. So your cover letter should be brief, concise, interesting, informative, professional, and courteous. And it shouldn't be longer than 1 page. So those sentences need to be meaty. Okay, and there's lots of examples in here. Lots of examples in here. You could Google it also, and it'll also give you examples on cover letters. Okay, all right. So here's some more tips from hiring managers. Okay, opening sentence should announce your purpose, even if it's obvious. Hey, I want to work for you guys. Demonstrate your passion for and knowledge of the company. You could say, you know what, I've been following you all. I know you do a lot of work in the community. This is something I want to be involved in. Let them know that you've studied them and that you want to work for them. Explain how and why this job interests you. Briefly elaborate on 1 or 2 key points to draw attention to your resume. You could say, attached is my resume, and as you can see, I have worked for, again, sir, you asked about how do I mention the company that I'm proud of. You know, I'm really proud of the company that I worked for. Here's where you can mention it. I worked for ABC rental company, you know, for 5 years. That's where you start to, you know, drop names. You could do that on your cover letter. Okay. Tell how you're going to use your skills for results at this new job. You could say something like, I plan to use my skills in the following ways. So do you still need a cover letter if you apply for a job via the internet? Yes, you do. You do. Michelle, you said you have a question?
So if the application does not ask for a cover letter, should I still attach one?
So if it doesn't ask for a cover letter, should you attach one? Yes, you should. Because it talks about you in a way that the resume cannot. What you have to say about yourself is one of the key reasons an employer will want to talk to you. You want to make sure that you mention it. But yeah, because that resume is so cold, again, it's got facts, it's got skills, accomplishments, which is great. But the cover letter has a little bit more personality, has warmth, and it kind of shows your interest in it aside from the resume that's on there. Yes, you do need a cover letter. Thank you, Michelle. All right, so just a few more tips here and we'll be done. On your cover letter, as you can see here, make sure that it's short, no longer than a page. Make sure that those sentences are meaty, that they say a lot. Okay, if you need to ask for help on this, again, reach out to someone that's a really good writer. You can talk to them and then they can help you write it and put it together. As long as you're helping them, because you don't want a cover letter that talks about you and you don't even know what it says. So offer a compelling reason to read on. Indicate if someone referred you. You could say, hey, I received a job referral from the New Mexico Workforce Connection about this job. Be yourself while keeping it very professional. Convey some of your personality and unique characteristics. Have your cover letter proofread 2 or 3 times to make sure that it's, you know, the typos aren't there and that it's, you know, you don't have too many run-on sentences, things like that. Before submitting, confirm the correct documents are included. If you are referring to a certain document, a certain attachment, make sure that you include it. Follow any specific instructions. Include job requisition number in the subject line of the email. Submit cover letter, resume in a certain format. If it wants a reference to a job requisition, this is in reference to job number, blah, 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 you would put it on there. Okay, so it's an introduction to your resume. Again, don't let your resume stand alone. Your cover letter will say more about you than sometimes the resume will. That's all I have today. Thank you very much. I hope you learned something today, and thank you for being here.